Just have to go, 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 where I don't know, no, no. This is the thing somebody said, somebody told me a long time ago. The further I go, my letters from home never arrive. And I'm all alone, all of the way, all of the way, alone and alive. As I roll, roll, going so slow, so slow, just stand below me is the old sea, just stand below me is the old sea. Nobody knows, knows, knows so many things, things so out of reach, sometimes so strange, sometimes so sweet, sometimes so lonely. Further I go, my letters from home never arrive. And I'm all alone, all of the way, all of the way, alone and alive. As I roll, 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 just stand below me is the old sea, just stand below me is the old sea. Thank you.
Hello, Folk Club fans. My name's Phil Rosenzweig, and I'm on the board of directors of the Lethbridge Folk Club. We want to celebrate bringing live music to Lethbridge for the last 45 years. In the summer of 1979, various people involved in the local music scene met around a table in Diamond City to formally start the Lethbridge Folk Club. Jim Mountain, Doug Snelling, Maureen Chambers, Barry Hegland, Ross Beamer, Ian Burnett, and others came together to start a club dedicated to their love of music, particularly acoustic music. Little did they know that 45 years later, the legacy that they began would be alive and well. We want to celebrate these past 45 years with you, and we hope you enjoy this brief retrospective of some of our founders actually talking about the early days of the folk club.
I'm Barry Hegland. I was involved in the music scene in Lethbridge through the folk club, but mostly also as a radio person. I was doing broadcasting then, and happened to live with Dave Filchak and knew a lot of the other members of the various musicians, the various bands and music personnel around the area. That was my kind of connection to it. I also did recording engineering work. And what else did I do, Jim? Anything else?
Well, you're the manager at Anglo Stereo, the record.
Well, that was a little later. Yeah.
That's when we met anyway. So
yes.
Are you still in Lethbridge, Barry?
No, I'm in Nova Scotia now.
I'm Maureen Chambers. Barry Hegland was always the one, aside from Doug and Jim, but the record store in the basement in Anglo's, that's where I got all my good shit back in the day. And Barry, you were such a mentor on that. And I was at the U of L, and I think it was a coffee house I played at, if that's correct. And then it became a daycare, and now it's not even there anymore.
Yeah.
The building.
Yeah.
And that's where I met Doug and Jim, and they just said, you know, we should play music together. And I said, okay. So that was that history there. And so I was really involved with the folk club in the early days, in that I lived outside of Diamond City and had an old house with a massive kitchen. So that was a good kitchen party house. Doug and Jim and I played together for quite a few years. And then through all of that knowledge I learned from all you mentors, became one of the founding members of the South Country Fair. I learned a lot from you guys, and I still say it was possibly one of the best times of my life, except for, you know, raising my kids and my husband and all that. They would be offended, but it was the best time of my life.
My name's Doug Snelling, and I was, as Maureen said, one of the people that was around Diamond City and Lethbridge in those days. And we decided, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. And we decided to go ahead and try and start up something that was more regular than just getting together and playing in a kitchen or, yeah, I had experience going to coffee houses when I lived in Ontario, and was looking for something that would be more regular in southern Alberta. So that's basically what happened.
I'll chime in a little bit too, because I didn't get to Lethbridge till 1977. So I was pretty much a newcomer. Myself and Kaya, my wife Kaya, we weren't married at the time, but we didn't know anybody, knew nobody at all. And moved to Diamond City. There's this Diamond City connection. And had sled dogs. I remember one night, a snowy night, out with the sled dogs, I ran into this guy called Doug Snelling. He was out there walking his dog. And we started talking in the snowy night, and decided to, you know, get together to explore some music connections. And I'd been to Ireland a couple years earlier, and so I was interested in that kind of music. And when I came to Lethbridge, you know, where do you start, like, trying to get to know somebody? I heard about the Irish Society having a Monday night dance at the church across from City Hall, and I went there, and I played the tin whistle, not very well. And they had really scratchy Ceilidh band records, which, if you know about Ceilidh bands, it's like accordions and, you know, drums and stuff. And I'd heard really traditional music in Ireland. There was a real revival going on over there. So I was more interested in that. And then I heard about this guy behind the stage who was giving Irish Gaelic lessons, and his name was Bill McGrath. And they said he was a really great fiddler, but he never played. He'd only play at Christmas time. So I went backstage, and it didn't go very well, actually. He was pretty grumpy, like, who the F are you? And he said, no, I have no interest in that kind of thing. I said, well, they've got really bad records out there. It'd be great to have some, you know, some fiddle and, you know, play some live music. No. But about a month later, I was asked to go to this banquet, and this other man came, Ian Burnett, who was from Scotland, and he gave a talk, and he also was on stage, and he played accordion and fiddle, and he was just a lovely guy. So I told Ian to come down to that Monday night thing, and then all of a sudden Bill poked his head around the curtain. Next week he brought his fiddle out, and those two guys, Irish and Scottish, totally like stereotypically Irish and Scottish. Bill drank and smoked like crazy. Ian might have a little bit of sherry at Christmas. But they really hit it off. And then when we got Doug playing backup, the four of us kind of started playing at Bill's house, right, Doug? We played sessions over at Bill McGrath's house.
We used to play in his basement. Yeah.
Yeah, and he was trying to get me drunk on scotch all the time.
Yeah.
He succeeded sometimes.
That was never a problem. That was never a problem for you or I, Jim.
No,
We always went along with that.
Yes, it's part of it, really. But we got invited to the Franco-Albertan Society soiree, and it was down by the former ALCB, the Liquor Control Board, down by the Yates or Bowman Arts Center just down there.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Used to be the Yates. Yep.
we were in there playing, and they're all Quebecois people and stuff, and they really warmed up to this music, even though it wasn't Quebecois music we were playing, but there was enough semblance of it, I guess, that they fed us a lot of beer. And I remember stumbling out onto the sidewalk that night, and I thought, man, that was really great. So, and then we heard about the Calgary Folk Club, the Southside Folk Club, there's one in Canmore, there was a couple in Rocky Mountain Folk Club. There was a thing going on around Alberta, and it was subsidized by the Alberta government. This is one of your questions here. They had, if you put on 3 concerts, you would get subsidized by Alberta Culture. If it was an Alberta artist, it would be 50% of the fee. If it was a Canadian artist, it would be 30%, I think. And if it was international, it was 25%. So it allowed us, you had to put on 3. So we went to Calgary. We learned I saw how they did their format up there, which was music on, they shut down the bar and the food, it becomes a concert. But then when it's break time, it all opens up and becomes like a British pub. And we brought that idea to Lethbridge and started from there.
Happy 45th anniversary to the Lethbridge Folk Club. My name is Maureen Chambers, and I'm delighted to be part of the celebration. 45 years ago, I was fortunate enough to be invited to open the first concert, and then was invited to be a member of the Lethbridge Folk Club house band with Doug Snelling, Jim Mountain, Bill McGrath, and Ian Burnett. And with Barry Hegland on sound, it couldn't go wrong. I truly felt like I was the luckiest girl around. We had so much fun playing music together. The concerts were cutting-edge folk music, and the after-parties were memorable, to say the least. The Lethbridge Folk Club changed my life, and I believe it's the reason the South Country Fair exists. I want to thank Jim Mountain, Doug Snelling, Barry Hegland, and your partners, Kaya, Jill, and Linda, for your mentorship and friendship. Thanks to all of you who have kept the Lethbridge Folk Club going all these years. It is a beautiful thing. Lastly, thanks to Phil and Irene for making this evening happen. Keep on keeping live music alive.
We had a bar service, we had a food service, we had the technical crew that Barry ran, we had the setup crew, we had hospitality. Doug and Jill billeted many performers, as did Maureen, as did we. We had after-hours parties that went till daybreak with bands like the Tannehill Weavers and so on.
Yes.
And we were the house band.
Yes, we had a house band. We were the house band.
That's right. Yeah, just before we continue, I think it should be really made a point that it was Jim and Doug and Maureen that were really kind of the founders of the real folk club direction that started in Lethbridge. Some of the others of us were involved in music in the area, but specifically around the folk club, it was that trio plus Bill and Ian that really started things off. So,
but we had professors from U of L come over, Billy McCarroll, Herb Hicks, Joan Waterfield at the Bowman was really helpful. So was Ed at the Yates. And then there's Dave Green, who's still with you out there, and Ross Beamer. Ross was a Diamond City neighbor as well.
Well, I was going to say that one person we haven't mentioned, and I just suddenly thought about it yesterday and Googled him, who helped out with the club, was Darcy Kavanagh, who showed up religiously. Maybe it wasn't just because we gave him a free ticket, but and he always he 9 times out of 10 always did a really good review in the paper, and that's the kind of thing that a club needs. They need people to know about it, really, and
the Lethbridge Herald. Lethbridge Herald at the time really got on board with us and wrote big articles. Andy Ogle was another writer there, and then our ticket people too, like Anglo. There was the Bowman Arts Center. We sold tickets. The little bookstore, and and the U of L, like the Students' Union at the University of Lethbridge, collaborated with us.
If I could give any advice to the Lethbridge Folk Club, because I've been an AD and a serious AD for over 35 years, is that just keep it eclectic. You know, and I don't want to use the word boring, because I'm not saying that the Lethbridge Folk Club in any way is boring. But if you want to draw people, you got to stay on your toes and know what's there. That's affordable. I get that part. But keep it eclectic, because there's this idea that, you know, people are kind of stuck in the music that they like. For the most part, that is not true.
Yeah.
As soon as you can open a door of something that maybe they haven't heard before, but they're there listening, they're going to go home and thank the club for opening that door.
Yeah.
And I think my advice, I'm involved still with music down here. There's 3 festivals I'm involved with, and the one thing that we do here is we have for the board members, we have a term. So like it's a 3-year 3-year term. You can serve maybe 2 3-year terms, but there's a succession, and we actually really recruit new people with a kind of a matrix of skills and experience and connections that we want people to fill a seat on the board with. And that's really served it well in terms of, you know, sustainability, I guess.
Right.
I think when, like the whole thing about founders syndrome and stuff like that, I think luckily none of us were really like that in a sense. Like part of it because we were so quite naive, I think, and getting going on all this. And but I think even if we'd all stayed together, I don't think we would have been like that anyway, because
no,
I think it's a big picture approach, right? You have to see that. And like the shows we're doing down here, it's an older audience but yet the performers are up and coming and emerging. There's amazing emerging young performers, but the audiences, in a sense, are not evolving. Like it's really hard to get that, you know, a lot of young people out to these shows. So that's the challenge, I would say.
Happy 45th birthday, Lethbridge Folk Club. I've only been involved with the club for about 20 or so years. I've been volunteer coordinator, I've sat on the board, and I've been honored to be asked to open for many fine acts that have come through over my time with the folk club. There's been so many wonderful acts come through. Some of the more memorable ones for me, a couple of them were when little Miss Higgins jumped up on one of the tables at our upstairs downtown location and played slide guitar with one of the patrons' beer bottles in her act. And another one that was very memorable was Ian Tamblin's telling of his travels in the Arctic through the voice of his hammered dulcimer. And there have just been so many wonderful acts. The Wardens, Lynn Miles, Valdy, Nathan Rogers, Ferris and Jason Romero, the Steve Fisher Band, so many that I just, in my memory right now off the top, I can't remember everyone, and so many recently as well. So I just congratulate the club on its longevity. The open stages continue to happen. We've even had them at Motorcycle Shop, and now we're holding them at McKillop Church. And I just hope that you keep on going, Lethbridge Folk Club. Happy birthday.
Second questions. I think this is very interesting. What venues were there to play at during those years?
German Canadian Hall was my favorite.
We started at the Westminster Hall, which it held about 90 people. It was a city-owned facility, and it packed it out, right, Maureen and Doug? Like we had a full house that night, and so then we thought, okay, well, then we started.
We also had, was it a Ukrainian or?
We moved next to the Scandinavian
That was
Scandinavian
it,
Hall.
the Scandinavian Hall.
It was a
On
bit
13th
bigger.
Street? Yeah.
The Ukrainians there was a couple of Ukrainian halls. They didn't want us because as soon as we mentioned the word alcohol, like we're going to
Yeah.
it was niet.
Scandinavian, that's right. But the German Canadian Hall was pretty brilliant for sound and space.
Yes.
That was our home for about 5 years, I think.
Yeah.
And I remember going to Mr. Ludwig Stein, who was the keeper of the key, and we would pay the rent in advance and go to his place every concert. Went to his house.
Yeah.
But I think finally they said, I don't know if we didn't outgrow it. I think they had a shooting club there at the hall upstairs, and they just so the folk club had to move away from there. But the capacity of that place was close to 300 people at times. Plus, it had colored lights. It had atmosphere. Big tapestry from Bavaria. Great kitchen and bar setup, and we had. They even expanded it there too. So they had a green room kind of thing. They had good washrooms. All the key ingredients there.
Had that balcony in the back.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that was a good room.
We had to build the whole stage down in the river bottom. Like we built it from the ground up with lumber and tarps and there was the specs were quite big. It was like 40 feet across by 40 feet deep. It had 3 different rooms. This is all Mitch Podolak Winnipeg Folk Festival kind of specs, right?
Thank you, Mitch.
Yeah.
But I got him back because we had the Winnipeg Folk Festival. They have a big nighttime stage, but in the daytime they have workshop stages all through. And so we ran that first festival that way. And they landed in on the bus, and I put Mitch on a workshop stage with banjo. He was like, "What?" Yeah, I said, "You're on now, Mitch." And so he had to do a banjo workshop because he was a banjo player.
Was the folk club involved in the South Country Fair at the time?
Not so much involved, because I always base this on when Jim moved, when Doug and Jill moved, and when my son was born. And the South Country, Ryland was 6 months old at the first South Country Fair. And we had everybody was sort of moving along bit and pieces here. But the Lethbridge Folk Club and the Livingston, which was Sid and Myrna Marty, and the Willow Creek Folk Club, which was Jim and Trent and I, they were the building blocks that created this other vision. It was those 3 folk clubs, because we worked a lot together. We shared acts. We would go to each other's shows. And that was the thing that just sparked, this is a space that needs to be filled.
And done well.
Pardon?
I say, and done well, by the way.
Thank you.
Well,
a lot of work. And we're just downsizing now, so it's pretty fun. Change is hard, but we're getting back to our roots, and we're truly getting the people again that we really want, which we've always had, but we always had those hanger as honors partiers that cost us grief and money. But we're getting back to our roots. But yeah, without the Lethbridge Folk Club, the South Country Fair would not exist. I can tell you that right now.
Hello, this is Tim.
Susie. Alina.
This is Carolyn.
We are Wander West Celtic and Beyond. We just want to wish Lethbridge Folk Club happy 45th anniversary and many more. Kwega Kwidlian Kugarjika.
Поздравляем с 45-летием.
there was a few exceptions. We had Eric Bogle, who was this amazing singer, songwriter from Australia.
Oh yeah,
He
yeah.
did No Man's Land, and band played Waltzing Matilda, some of these classic songs you hear around Remembrance Day. But this was when the Falklands War was just happening, and we had a contingent from the British base at Suffield come down.
Oh,
All these
yes.
young guys with shaved heads, kind of thing. They were getting ready to ship out, and Eric Bogle they interpret his songs as being anti-military, anti-war, right? And they were just starting to get really, really, you could see the whole thing building up within them, a lot of testosterone there. And so I went over to them and asked them to, try and, politely ask them to be quiet. And I remember I see this guy and he had a beer bottle. We served our drinks in bottles, maybe a mistake, but I thought I'm going to get smashed in the face with this thing. And all of a sudden I realized I'm not alone here. And I look behind me where all the Legion, the older Legion World War II vets were standing behind me, about 6 of them. Morris McFarland from the Legion. They're all like just behind me, right? And one of the young British soldiers from across the table, he says, "Okay, I think we should probably leave right now." And so they did. But there was about 8 of them, and they were, it's just, but that was rare. I think by and large, we had pretty good audiences, right?
Oh, we had very good audience.
My story is the Tannehill Weavers came through more than once, but one of the times they were there, we had the big kitchen party.
Yes.
At my farmhouse, which was, my landlord was old Bill Nickel, which is the man that the band was named after. I don't know if you know that, but Billy Nickel. Anyway, he was the nicest man ever. He was older. He loved Lucy and I, and we could do no wrong. And he was just so awesome. Anyway, parties at my place. We did not drink our water. It came out of a dugout. And so we always had water that we probably got from Doug and Jill. And we bathed in it. But from here. You never told me that. Anyway, everybody that would come into that kitchen, I would always say, don't drink the water. So this one particular night, I don't know if these boys missed it or not. And, they like to tip a few. And they were wild little critters. And maybe they just weren't listening. I don't remember. But all of them drank water out of the kitchen tap. For the whole evening, I'd have a beer, have a glass of water. I missed all of that. And then somebody saw them and said, "Oh, more, they're drinking the water out of the tap." And I said, "Really? Didn't you know?" And they just looked at me like, "Oh, who cares?" And I thought, yeah, the liquor will probably kill it all in your gut. And they all lived through it.
The Tannehill Weavers' first time through came to our place. The white guy. They had Bill Bourne as well.
Yeah.
Bill Bourne opened for them. But my story about that, I don't want to take too long, but we were denied. There was a liquor strike going on that day, and we'd sold the tickets, and it was July 4th actually, because it was a rare concert, and they were going to play the Calgary Stampede the next day. And we always went through Jim McLaughlin up in Edmonton. He was Scottish. He was bringing all these bands in from Scotland. So anyways, he convinced us to do this, and I got onto the phone to the head of the Alberta Liquor Board. It was a woman, and she gave us the only permit that in all of the province. She gave it to us that day, because I said we got every Scots coming from Calgary to Crow's Nest to Medicine Hat to Montana. I said, you can't have a show without having this. And she said, okay, I'll give it to you, but you got to go to the liquor store and get in 10 minutes. You got 10 minutes to get the whole order. And I actually had a government car. Unmarked. I went to the liquor store. We had 50 cases of 12, all kinds of wine and hard liquor. And when I drove out of there, the back bumper actually scraped on the parking lot. This huge truck came in the other way, a great big 4x4 with a rifle rack, and there was 3 guys in there, just oil workers or whatever. They stopped and looked down at me and said, "Where the F is the party?" I drove on and I just offloaded it over at the Bowman Arts Center because I couldn't drive any more than like 100 feet with this load. I could barely get in and drive. Like I was packed full of booze. But then we put the show on that night, and I remember, oh my God, the whole roof just came off that place when they just kicked into the first song. Like,
Oh yeah,
and then
I still play that album a lot.
East of the Bog, and Alan McLeod was their piper. I mean, when he blew, his veins, he was like Dizzy Gillespie, you know. And you remember he had a T-shirt, Oatmeal Savage, and so then after they came to our place, and then we just kept going. I remember.
Yeah. Well, Alan spent a lot of time up on Bill Bourne's shoulders, as I recall, marching around. So, but the other one that I thought was quite interesting was Odetta. We had Odetta
at the college. Is that right?
Yeah,
we had her.
She was at the
German Canadian.
Yeah, German Canadian Hall.
Oh, right.
That upper balcony that you talked about earlier, Maureen, she turned it into this little tent. She had all of these big hangings and silks and crazy, incredible. You remember that?
I can remember go ahead.
No, I was just saying, she smoked like a chimney. So you had this little oven of smoke in this very peaceful little area that she'd set up. It was quite fun.
Yeah.
I'm not too sure how she got into town, but I can remember we picked her up. And Maureen, do you remember that couple that we went on and played at the Fernie Folk Club for? We stayed in their house. I don't know if that's when we played with Willie P.
Oh, wait, Dad, look. Can you see? I brought this to show you, Jim.
Oh, that's it. Yeah. Yeah, that was a great night.
We drove in a snowstorm.
That couple had come through to see Odetta, and we met them, and we had pizza with Odetta on the main street of Lethbridge. I'll never forget that.
Yeah.
It's just pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Pretty amazing.
I think the one that sticks out in my mind is I think it's the only time we had a concert at the Yates. What's it called? The Yates Memorial. Yeah. We had Doc Watson play there, and I went down to the theater. I think it was it must have been during the winter or spring. It got dark early, and I went down there to just check and make sure everything was, everything was in place. And I came through the front door, and I could hear it was completely dark. There were no lights on. And I walked into the theater, and here's Doc Watson on the stage by himself, just playing. And I'll never, ever forget that, just playing in the dark. Now I just kind of sat down in a chair and listened to him, and then I went up and spoke to him briefly, but he was such a really amazing guy. But I don't know if you remember his son and the bass player for the band.
Merle,
and I forget the bass player is a bit of a smooth dude. I can remember they were very interested in finding some cocaine.
Oh yeah.
And I thought, whoa, what's going on here?
Yeah, sure. And they had the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band bus behind the Yates that night.
Okay, I don't remember that, but I just remember that Doc Watson thing because I always liked Doc Watson. And I suppose my other big memory is the time that Stan came through. The guy was just an amazing talent performer.
What do we had? Stan 3 times or so? Stan,
I think so.
3 times at the folk club. Then we had him at the two
festival,
two outdoor festivals. Yeah, so we had him 5 times out there.
And there were, just about all of those acts, except for Tom Paxton, I think we were paying next to nothing. They were,
$300 maybe for the.
I remember the Red Clay Ramblers. You remember them? We hardly paid them And there were about 5 or 6 of them, you know, and this old bus.
Yeah.
If we go back, I'm just thinking about the first night that we actually had we had an open mic or something like that. Do you remember that? Was it in a church? Was it in a church or something like that?
No,
The first time we ever had.
We did
Community
open
hall.
mics on Wednesday nights, Doug. We did Westminster Hall. We did these
Right.
Wednesday night open mics just to kind of flesh out who was around town that could maybe be on our main stage, like at the Lethbridge Folk Club. And that was the time that Connie Calder came there.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. You know, we're there and we're just kind of hanging out, and you know, we're all trying to do our best singing and that, and then all of a sudden, Connie Calder shows up, well, who we didn't really know at that time.
About 11 o'clock at night. Yeah, about 11 at night.
What an amazing! I'll never forget that. You know.
Yeah.
She came. I recognized her because I got all these things going through Alberta culture, all these pictures and stuff, and I sort of recognized. And she came up to me and she said she'd been booked by the county of Lethbridge to play out at Coaldale at the high school, and she said there were like 4 people showed up in the gymnasium.
Oh.
She said they paid me and I put on the show, but she said I don't like putting on a show like that. She said, do you mind if I do some songs here? We just said, take the stage. And then she went on from about 11 till midnight. She just
that's cool.
Well, it's really inspiring to hear you guys reminisce and all your ideas. I'm just absolutely overwhelmed with the excitement about our anniversary and what we are going to do.